Let me just start by thanking you for taking time to participate in this training. These safety briefings are a very important part of our safety program around here. At Operations, safety is one of our 4 core values. In fact, it's not just one of our values, but we are trying to create a culture of safety around here so that safety is at the heart of everything we do and how we're seen around campus. This safety briefing will talk about what it's like to work in a safety culture and what it might take to get there. You know, when I was in college, I worked my way through school as a daycare teacher. Well, part of my job was keeping the kids safe. And so one of the strategies that I set up with to kind of help me, kind of maintain that constant observation was counting. I would just count their heads. If I had 12 kids, and then I would count 12 kids, then I knew everything was safe. Everyone was where they were supposed to be. There wasn't any trouble. And then I would start again, and I would just recount them and one more time, and then again and again. Because I knew that, if I knew where everybody was and I could watch them, then I would know that they were safe. And so a few minutes later, I would count again. But it got to be such a habit that I'd find myself doing it wherever I went. I might be at a baseball game, for instance, and catch myself just counting everybody in the stands around me. Or I'd go to a restaurant or family gathering, and I would just always be subconsciously counting the number of people around me. And it had just become second nature. I'd become so used to constantly counting and recounting that it was just a reflex. I was kind of nutso. I was a little bit driving myself crazy. But it had just become a habit at that point. It wasn't something I had to intentionally ever think about. It was on autopilot. Now, eventually, when I quit daycare, I did stop doing that. I don't do it anymore. I was telling Maria about this story. She quizzed me. She said, I just got to know how many people are in ARO. And I immediately told her I did know. But mostly I don't do it anymore. But at first, when I stopped working at daycares, I had to retrain my brain. I had to retrain how I think and create new thinking patterns and habits. Looking back at that now, I can see I was really kind of practicing a safety technique called Abby, above, below, behind, inside, because that perfectly describes what was happening in my brain. As I was counting, I'm locating them, and I'd just be aware of, who's up there, who's down there, who's over there, who's inside there. And when we talk about creating a safety culture here, or maybe you call it a safety mindset at Operations, this is what we're talking about. We want safety to be so ingrained in us that it becomes part of our very DNA. We want it to be, who we are, not just what we do. Every time we think a thought, a neural pathway is created, which makes it easier for us to think that thought the next time and the next time. So think about that in terms of our safety program. Can't you see the benefit of repeatedly thinking along the lines of these safety techniques such as Abby? Your brain just kind of becomes like a hazard radar, kind of like my silent counting. Your eyes go up. Is that ladder secured? Your eyes go down. Is that a trip hazard over there? Your eyes go up. They go over. Is that machine powered off with the proper lockout tagout? Your eyes go inside. Does that container inside the custodial closet have all the labels? And then you scan again and again, just automatically looking for unsafe conditions. It's like your brain is a hazard radar. Abby is a technique of total observation. It teaches you to use all of your senses to scan the scene and recognize any safety hazards. So here, in looking at these pictures, for example, do you spot some problems? You should. But spotting a hazard is only the first step. Taking action is when safety is actually achieved, right? We all know this, even if we don't know what to do in a situation. It's like when I would count. If my count came up short, what good would it do me if I didn't go and find the child to make sure everything was okay? The true value is in our response, our actions, and the behaviors. But that can sometimes lead to hard choices. It takes a lot of time and it does take effort. So just how important is it to you? Let me ask you a question I really want you to consider. Why is safety at work important to you? Why does it matter? So find a piece of paper and just jot down a few thoughts. Maybe some of you jotted down that safety is important to you because you have people at home counting on you. Or maybe somebody else wrote that it was important to you because your coworkers were counting on you, or you really care about the people that you work with. Well, it matters to me because you matter to me. And we are all people of infinite value, and that deserves to be protected. Psychologically, we're more likely to stick with the change if we connect it to a why. Frankly, is it worth it to you? Take a moment to consider that. What's it worth? And take a moment to consider what it might take to raise that value in your mind even higher. What would it take to raise the value in the minds of your coworkers too? Back when I was a habitual head counter, I did that because I wanted to protect my kids and I wanted to keep my job. And mostly, I really didn't want to have to explain to their parents how their child got hurt under my care. But my why, really ultimately, was that I cared about my kids. They mattered to me. So what I did mattered too, very much. If we were meeting in person right now, I'd probably break you up into a small group at this point. Ask you to consider how well your area currently values safety right now. What's it doing really well? Where can it grow? However, we're not able to get together just yet, not on a large scale. So let me ask you to consider those questions on your own, or better yet, bring it up in your next team meeting. In fact, I'll attach some discussion questions to this training that your supervisor can lead you in a discussion next time you get together. Then I'd love it if you'd email me and let me know how the discussion went. As safety becomes more and more part of your value system, you live it, you'll feel it, you'll do anything to make it count. Safety is important. In fact, I would argue it's one of the most important things that we can invest in. But what I think will not motivate you to improve. What you think is what matters. And given what we discussed earlier, how you think is just as important. Are you creating neural pathways that serve you? I admit it takes hard work, but it is so worth it because you matter. So begin scanning your area for hazards. Turn on that hazard radar. Building a new culture has its challenges. A safety culture is about trust. It's about a one-team mindset and a one-value system. It's about everyone going home safe every day. But how do we do that? We start by planting seeds. Think about the philosophy of you reap what you sow. Since we will reap what we sow, it's imperative that we plant seeds every day of a vibrant safety culture. Now, I know that sounds good in theory, but how do we do it? How do we grow it? Well, that's the subject of the next few safety briefings. We'll be covering that. In the next one, we'll go deeper into how to spot a hazard. Oh, don't forget to use those discussion questions in your next team meeting. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.